There are moments in life that feel like standing on the edge of a vast, unpredictable ocean, unsure of the next wave's direction. You believe you're steering your own ship, confident in your course. But then life, with its capricious currents, throws a rogue tide that leaves you adrift. I always saw myself as the captain, charting my own destiny, offering guidance and mending what was broken. But now, the familiar shore has receded, and I find myself at the bottom of a chasm, forced to confront a stark, unyielding truth. This reality is a harsh mistress, yet I am compelled to lay bare every detail, every tremor of emotion, because it is through sharing these raw narratives that true understanding and growth emerge. My story is one of a journey that began with a desire for change, a quest to redefine the boundaries of my own existence, but it took a turn into a labyrinth of unintended consequences. It's about the subtle ways desires can morph, and how the pursuit of something more can lead to an unexpected entanglement. My husband, Alistair, and we lived a life that, on the surface, appeared to be a picture of curated perfection, a carefully constructed facade designed to withstand any external scrutiny. Yet, beneath that polished veneer, a restlessness had begun to stir within me, a yearning for a deeper connection, a more vibrant expression of self that I felt was being stifled. This internal dissonance was the catalyst for the path I eventually found myself treading, a path that would lead me far from the shores of my own perceived control. My life, up until a certain point, had the distinct shimmer of a fairy tale, a picture-perfect marriage, a thriving career that offered ample validation, and the kind of home that magazine spreads often featured, the whole idealized package. It was the life many aspire to, the kind often presented as the ultimate destination. Yet, as the old adage wisely cautions, not all that glitters is truly gold. Beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic existence, a persistent undercurrent of dissatisfaction and an unnameable disquietude began to erode my sense of contentment. I felt a profound sense of missing something essential, as if I were merely an actress playing a role rather than embodying my authentic self. It was this very pursuit of a more profound existence, this insistent whisper of a life yet unlived, that inadvertently led me into a considerable predicament, a situation so tangled and overwhelming that it fundamentally shook the foundations of my reality and forced me to reevaluate every belief I had held. Dear, it may sound like a worn-out cliché, but the truth of it resonates deeply within me. This is precisely why I am compelled to share my story with you, to offer a glimpse into the intricate tapestry of life beyond the curated perfection often portrayed. My intention is to illuminate the fact that life is rarely a smooth, untroubled passage, and that sometimes, to truly find oneself, one must first experience being utterly lost. Perhaps, in sharing my journey, I can offer a small beacon of guidance, helping others avoid the same pitfalls I stumbled into. Or, at the very least, I hope it provides a measure of solace, a reminder that you are not alone in navigating the wonderfully chaotic and often perplexing adventure that is life. My own experience has taught me that the most profound growth often stems from confronting our deepest insecurities and venturing into the unknown, even when fear tugs at our sleeves. It's in those moments of vulnerability, stripped of pretense, that we discover a strength we never knew we possessed. The rabbit hole deepened not long after I met Serafina. She possessed that rare quality, the kind that makes you feel seen, truly seen. When her gaze met yours, she spoke of freedom, of shedding the shackles of convention, of embracing life with an unbridled intensity. And I, who had always prided myself on my adherence to rules, found myself inexplicably drawn to the allure of transgression. I began attending these gatherings she orchestrated, discussions about open relationships and the like. Initially, it was pure curiosity, a gentle dipping of my toes into uncharted waters. But gradually, insidiously, I found myself wading deeper, becoming more entangled. My marriage, my entire life, began to feel like a poorly fitting garment, prompting constant questioning. Guilt gnawed at me incessantly, a relentless companion. Yet, Serafina would always assure me that liberation was not only possible, but a right, that I deserved happiness. And I, in my earnestness, believed her. I was torn between the life I had meticulously built and this new reality that beckoned, a chasm opening before me. It was as if I were living two parallel existences, and I struggled to discern which was the genuine one. The crushing weight of it all was amplified by my isolation. I couldn't confide in a soul about the turmoil raging within. I felt utterly alone, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. This internal schism began to manifest in subtle ways. My conversations at home became stilted, guarded. I'd find myself rehearsing pleasantries, carefully omitting any hint of the seismic shifts occurring in my inner landscape. My husband, bless his oblivious heart, attributed my newfound quietude to stress at work, or perhaps a phase. He'd offer gentle reassurances, a comforting hand on my arm, entirely unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface of my placid exterior. These moments of his affection, once the bedrock of my security, now felt like accusations, reminders of a fidelity I was actively, albeit hesitantly, challenging. The meetings with Serafina and her circle offered a stark contrast. There, I felt a strange sense of belonging, a validation for the disquiet that had festered for so long. The conversations were raw, honest, unburdened by societal expectations. People shared vulnerabilities, fears, and desires with an openness that was both intoxicating and terrifying. I started to see myself reflected in their narratives, their journeys mirroring the questions I was too afraid to voice. The physical world began to feel less substantial, a mere backdrop to the dramatic unfolding of my internal drama. I'd catch myself staring out of windows, lost in thought, my surroundings fading into a blur. The routines that once grounded me now felt like gilded cages. The aroma of my husband's morning coffee, the familiar creak of the stairs, the predictable rhythm of our evenings, all of it seemed to belong to a different person, a stranger who had once been me. I would attend social gatherings, smile at the appropriate moments, engage in polite conversation, all the while feeling like an imposter, a spy in my own life. The desire to shed this old skin, to embrace the exhilarating uncertainty Serafina promised, grew with each passing day, a hunger that was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. The initial euphoria of my newfound freedom was intoxicating. Each encounter, each whispered confession under a starlit sky, felt like a breath of fresh air after years of stifling conformity. I reveled in the thrill of the unknown, the delightful uncertainty of where the evening might lead, and the sense of self-discovery that blossomed with every step outside my familiar boundaries. Alistair, true to his word, seemed to adapt with surprising grace. We'd return to our shared life, our conversations often weaving through our individual experiences. A strange but initially comforting tapestry of shared and separate lives. There was a sense of a pact, an unspoken understanding that this was our new normal. And for a time, it felt like a more honest, more vibrant existence than before. However, the cracks began to appear subtly, like hairline fractures in a once solid foundation. The stolen glances, the hushed phone calls, the carefully crafted explanations for late nights, they started to carry a different weight. What was once exciting anticipation morphed into a gnawing anxiety. I found myself replaying Alistair's words, searching for an undertone I might have missed, a hidden resentment lurking beneath his calm acceptance. The ease with which he navigated his own explorations began to feel less like trust and more like a quiet withdrawal, a gentle distancing that left an ever-widening chasm between us. My own explorations, once a source of liberation, started to feel hollow. The initial thrill of novelty gave way to a quiet introspection. I began to question the motivations behind my choices, the true nature of the freedom I sought. Was I truly expanding my horizons? Or was I simply running from something I couldn't articulate? The feeling of being an imposter, which I thought I had shed, returned with a vengeance. But this time, it was directed inwards. I was performing a version of myself that was becoming increasingly alien. Even to me, the laughter of new companions felt strained, the shared intimacies superficial, and the return to our quiet home, once a comfort, now felt like a cage of my own making. The effortless love I had envisioned, one that could encompass separate lives without faltering, was proving to be a far more delicate and complex thing than Serafina, or I, had ever anticipated. The lingering scent of unfamiliar perfume and the phantom echoes of a party I desperately wanted to forget clung to me like a shroud. Serafina's insistent cheerfulness had been the catalyst, pushing me into a social landscape where I felt utterly adrift. The casual acceptance of free love felt like a foreign language, and every knowing glance and intertwined hand only amplified my isolation. Then, the sight of Alistair, his easy laughter mingling with the bright eyes of a stranger, was the final, crushing blow. The way his hand rested on her arm, the shared secrets in their hushed conversation, it ignited a fury I hadn't known I possessed. Fueled by a primal surge of possessiveness and a deep, gnawing insecurity, I fled. The drive home was a blur of raw emotion, each mile amplifying the betrayal I felt. The moment the front door slammed shut, the dam broke. Every unspoken fear, every perceived slight, every moment of doubt came pouring out in a torrent of accusations. Alistair, caught off guard, met my fury with his own, and the night devolved into a screaming match, a cathartic yet destructive unraveling of everything we had built. The harsh words, sharp and careless, were hurled like weapons, each one intended to inflict pain, to lash out at the source of my own misery. Sleep offered no solace, only a cold, stark silence. We lay back to back, a chasm of unspoken resentments and regret stretching between us. The familiar warmth of his presence was replaced by an icy void. The dawn brought with it a chilling emptiness. Alistair was gone. His side of the closet was bare, his favorite armchair vacant. He had taken his belongings, his silence, and his absence, leaving me in a house that suddenly felt cavernous and suffocating. The weight of his departure settled on me, heavy and absolute. In that profound silence, the truth, stark and brutal, finally dawned. I had been so consumed by my own anxieties, so desperate to control a situation that was inherently fluid, that I had shattered the very foundation of our life together. The freedom I had so desperately sought, the one that I believed would somehow validate my own choices, had instead become the instrument of my undoing. The days blurred into a monotonous cycle of despair. My world had shrunk to the four walls of my bedroom, a sanctuary that had become my prison. Each morning brought a fresh wave of regret, a chilling reminder of the irreversible damage I had inflicted. Food tasted like ash, sleep offered no solace, and the simple act of breathing felt like an exertion. I replayed every conversation, every glance, searching for the precise moment where things had gone so terribly wrong. Each replay a fresh stab of self-recrimination. The reflection staring back at me in the mirror was a stranger, gaunt and hollow-eyed, a visual testament to my inner turmoil. The silence from Alistair was deafening, his unresponsiveness, a stark and definitive statement, was a constant echo of my failure. The unanswered calls, the ghosted messages, the closed door, they all served as painful punctuation marks to the end of an era. There was no room for argument, no space for negotiation. He had simply erased me, and in the quiet agony of that realization, I understood the profound depth of my transgression. I had meticulously chipped away at the trust that had bound us, and now the edifice had crumbled, leaving only ruin. The weight of my actions felt crushing, a physical burden that made even the simplest tasks feel insurmountable. Guilt was a constant companion, whispering insidious accusations in my ear, reinforcing the narrative that I was beyond redemption. The image of my husband's hurt, the pain in the eyes of those who had cared for me, played on repeat, each memory a fresh source of anguish. I had squandered opportunities, betrayed confidences, and, in my misguided pursuit of something I couldn't even articulate, I had managed to dismantle the very life I was supposed to cherish. This period of self-imposed isolation felt endless, an abyss from which I saw no escape. The idea of seeking help, of reaching out, seemed impossible. How could I explain the tangled mess I had created? How could I ask for understanding when I barely understood myself? The loneliness was a gnawing ache, amplifying the sense of worthlessness. I was adrift, a ship without a rudder, tossed about by the relentless waves of my own making, with no land in sight. Then, a flicker of defiance ignited within the darkness. It was a small spark, barely perceptible at first, but it refused to be extinguished. The sheer exhaustion of living in such profound misery began to outweigh the paralyzing fear. A nascent understanding began to dawn. This self-destructive path was not a solution. It was merely an extension of the problem. To remain buried in sorrow was to surrender completely, to allow my mistakes to define me permanently. A quiet resolve, born not of strength but of sheer necessity, began to take root. This whole experience has been a profound reevaluation of my values, my priorities, everything. I've come to understand that the freedom I so desperately craved wasn't found in seeking out new experiences, but rather in staying true to myself, in living according to my principles. I finally grasped that true love isn't about confinement, but about liberation. It's the kind of love that allows you to be authentically you. And I've also learned that happiness isn't about possessing everything, but about cherishing what you already have. My journey of self-discovery began to take a more tangible form. I started therapy, a space where I could safely unpack the tangled mess of emotions and experiences that had led me to this point. Meditation became a daily ritual, a way to quiet the incessant noise in my mind and find a sense of inner peace. Physical exercise, once a chore, transformed into a source of strength and resilience, both for my body and my spirit. More importantly, I began to mend the fractured connections in my life, reaching out to friends and family. Sharing my struggles and vulnerabilities proved to be an incredibly healing process. Their unwavering support and love were the anchors I needed to navigate these turbulent waters. I also rediscovered the simple joys I had long neglected. Picking up a book, putting pen to paper to write my thoughts, or losing myself in the strokes of a paintbrush. These activities, once sidelined by my pursuit of a fleeting ideal, now filled me with a sense of purpose and profound satisfaction. Slowly, incrementally, a new sense of self began to emerge. I felt a growing strength, a confidence that wasn't dependent on external validation, a deep-seated happiness, rooted in self-acceptance and gratitude, started to bloom, while a pang of longing for Alistair still surfaced from time to time. I knew, with a clarity I hadn't possessed before, that I had to move forward. It was time to offer myself the gift of a new beginning, a chance to build a life that was truly my own. This entire journey has been a profound reevaluation of my values, my priorities, everything. I discovered that the freedom I craved wasn't found in novelty, but in authenticity, in living by my own principles. True love, I realized, doesn't confine. It liberates, allowing you to fully inhabit your true self. And happiness, I learned, isn't about possessing an abundance of things, but about cherishing what you already have. I began incorporating practices that nourished my well-being. Therapy sessions provided a safe space to unpack and understand my experiences. Meditation became a daily ritual, grounding me and fostering inner peace. Regular physical exercise revitalized my body and mind, contributing to a growing sense of resilience. I actively sought to reconnect with the people who mattered most, reaching out to friends and spending quality time with my family. These connections, once taken for granted, now felt like essential pillars of my life. Rediscovering forgotten passions proved to be an integral part of my healing. I dusted off old books, letting the stories transport me once more. My journal became a canvas for my thoughts and emotions, the act of writing itself a cathartic release. I returned to painting, finding solace and expression in the vibrant hues and textures. With each step, no matter how small, I felt a palpable shift. My strength grew, my confidence solidified, and a genuine happiness began to take root. The lingering absence of Alistair was a quiet ache, a reminder of a chapter closed, but it no longer defined my present or my future. I understood that moving forward was not an act of forgetting, but an act of self-preservation and a testament to my own capacity for growth. It was time to embrace the unknown and offer myself the grace of a second chance at a life built on my own terms. This entire experience served as a profound recalibration of my core values, my priorities, and my understanding of what truly matters. I had erroneously equated freedom with the pursuit of novelty, with the constant exploration of external experiences. However, the journey inward revealed a deeper, more resilient form of liberation, the freedom found in unwavering self-alignment, in living authentically according to my own deeply held principles. I came to grasp that genuine love is not a cage, however gilded, but a powerful catalyst for self-expression. True love empowers. It liberates, allowing the full spectrum of one's being to unfold without constraint. It is in this space of uninhibited authenticity that the most meaningful connections can flourish. My perspective on happiness also underwent a significant transformation. The incessant striving for more, for external validation, faded into insignificance as I began to cultivate a profound appreciation for the abundance already present in my life. The seeds of this newfound clarity blossomed into tangible actions. I embraced practices that nourished my mind and body, initiating a consistent routine of therapy, meditation, and physical exercise. These disciplines became cornerstones of my self-care, fostering a sense of grounding and inner peace. Simultaneously, I made a conscious effort to nurture the relationships that had always provided a bedrock of support. Reconnecting with dear friends and cherished family members brought immense joy and a renewed sense of belonging, reminding me of the enduring power of human connection. Furthermore, I rediscovered the simple pleasures that had once brought light into my days. The quiet solace of a good book, the cathartic release of writing, the vibrant expression found in painting. These activities, long dormant, were revitalized, infusing my life with color and purpose. With each passing day, I felt a palpable strengthening of my spirit, a growing assurance in my own capabilities, and a blossoming sense of contentment. The echo of Alistair's absence, though still present, no longer cast a shadow over my path. I recognized the necessity of embracing this new chapter, of extending myself the profound gift of a second chance at crafting a life rich in personal meaning and profound fulfillment. The journey inward had revealed a landscape of self-discovery I hadn't anticipated. My pursuit of novelty had, in a strange twist of fate, led me back to the bedrock of my own being. True freedom, I now understood, wasn't found in the fleeting excitement of the unknown, but in the unwavering commitment to my own principles. It was in the quiet strength of knowing who I was and standing firm in that knowledge. This realization brought with it a profound sense of peace, a stillness that had eluded me for so long. The concept of love, too, underwent a significant metamorphosis in my understanding. The romanticized notions of possession and dependence were replaced by a more enlightened perspective. Genuine love, I learned, was not a cage that confined, but a gentle current that propelled one forward, encouraging growth and self-expression. It was a space where vulnerability was met with acceptance, and where the truest form of connection blossomed from mutual respect and autonomy. This shift in perspective was like opening a window to a brighter, more spacious world. My newfound appreciation for contentment had shifted my focus from accumulation to appreciation. The frantic desire for more had subsided, replaced by a deep gratitude for the richness already present in my life. This was not a passive resignation, but an active engagement with the blessings I possessed, both tangible and intangible. Each sunrise became an opportunity to acknowledge the simple beauty of existence, and each quiet moment a chance to savor the present. The world around me seemed to shimmer with a renewed brilliance, seen through eyes that had learned to truly see. The commitment to my well-being had solidified into a sustainable practice. Therapy provided a safe harbor for exploration and healing, while meditation offered a sanctuary of inner calm. The physical exertion of exercise had not only strengthened my body, but also cleared my mind, creating a powerful synergy. My relationships, once neglected in the whirlwind of my past pursuits, were now nurtured with intention and care. Reconnecting with friends and family felt like returning to familiar shores, bringing with it a profound sense of belonging and support. My creative outlets, once set aside, were resurrected with a passion that surprised me. The pages of my journal once again filled with my thoughts and reflections, the canvases awaiting the strokes of my brush, and the spines of beloved books beckoned me into their worlds. These acts of creation were not mere pastimes. They were affirmations of my spirit, tangible expressions of my inner landscape. With each word written, each color blended, each story absorbed, I felt a more profound connection to myself and to the vibrant tapestry of life unfolding around me. The path ahead, while still unwritten, now felt illuminated by an inner light, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of self-love. And so, my friends, this is it. This is my story. A narrative woven with threads of missteps and triumphs, of profound losses and the quiet strength of new beginnings. It's a chronicle that has etched indelible lessons onto my soul, teaching me the intricate dance of life, the boundless depths of love, and the ever-evolving landscape of my own self. I understand that bearing these fragments of my journey to you was no simple undertaking, but I sincerely hope that my lived experience might offer a flicker of inspiration. Perhaps it will resonate with someone navigating their own turbulent seas, feeling adrift and uncertain, or simply in need of that gentle nudge to keep moving forward. If this tale has touched you, please consider showing your appreciation with a like and subscribing to the channel. Most importantly, though, I urge you to share your own stories. For in the end, genuine connection blossoms when we dare to unfurl our vulnerabilities, revealing the authentic selves within. A warm embrace. And until our next encounter, the old wooden easel, still dusted with faint traces of dried oil paint, stood sentinel in the corner of my studio. Sunlight, thick with dancing motes, streamed through the grimy window pane, illuminating the canvas that had once felt like the sole repository of my anxieties. Now, it was a quiet testament to resilience, its unfinished edges a gentle reminder that completion is often a fluid concept. I traced the rough grain of the wood with my fingertips, a familiar comfort. I remembered the days when the very act of holding a brush felt like a monumental effort, the colors on the palette mocking my inability to translate the storm within into something beautiful. Marzabia eu. Then, how the persistent rhythm of creation, even in its most rudimentary forms, was slowly rebuilding the fractured pieces of my spirit. The scent of turpentine, once a sharp sting, had mellowed into a nostalgic perfume, evoking the quiet hours spent wrestling with my own shadows. Each stroke, each smudge of color, had been a whispered conversation with myself, a promise of endurance whispered into the silent air. The worn, leather-bound books on the shelf beside me, their pages dog-eared and ink-stained, held echoes of characters who had navigated their own arduous paths. They were silent witnesses to those late nights, when the only solace I found was in losing myself in their worlds. their struggles mirroring my own, their eventual triumphs a beacon of hope in my own darkness.